Okay, welcome to another Highland League Weekly Friday preview show. What is going to be the last Friday preview show of 2022? We're not going to bother doing one next week, but this week's one, a lot of good games to look forward to across Friday the 23rd and Tuesday it'll be the 27th, won't it?
Yeah, right. Flies on you.
I know, very quick maths. I believe they call that in the youth circles. Our main game on Friday is going to be a cracker. Two Aberdeenshire teams for Martin United against Fraserburgh. I'm not going to say Christmas cracker, by the way, in case you were wondering. But it's it's a chance for Martin, isn't it, to potentially overtake the Brock. Both teams very close in the table.
It is. If they win, they would go above Fraserburgh. It's the Paul Campbell
debut show.
Well, I was going to say the Paul Campbell derby, but it's funny. Obviously, moved last weekend from Fraserburgh to Formartine, and as football works out, his first two games are going to be against Fraserburgh. So, I mean, the Brock defence, no excuses for not knowing about his threats quite clearly. But I think this game, the double header, even big game for both clubs because both of them, they're a wee bit behind the top three, but you want to keep trying to win and sort of stay on the coattails of the top three.
Very tight this one. I think home advantage maybe just shades it for Martin, I think.
Callum's touched on it there, but the way this sort of 2 weeks of festive fixtures have been designed is as close as possible, all sort of derby games, teams kind of, playing each other, then playing the reverse fixture the following week. Do we like that? We're fans?
I think fans like it because you always look at whatever happens the first one and think, right, we're going to even the score or really hammer it home the following week. That's what fans are like.
I think if you speak to players and managers, they didn't like it so much for that same reason, because if you get a 3-0 win, for example, then the next game you're expecting the opposition to be fired out. And it's, as I've said before, with these sort of games, very seldom you get the same outcome or the same score twice in these sort of games, I tend to find.
The second game we're going to be filming this weekend, well, both games on Friday, the ones we're filming, is going to be Inverurie Locos against Turriff United. How do you see this one going, guys?
Well, reasonably tight again, I think, but the interesting thing for me is played earlier this month in the Highland League Cup, and Dean Donaldson was adamant afterwards that the better team in Turriff had lost. So it's sort of a chance for them, I would suggest, to show this time that they're the better team potentially and get a result. But clearly it won't be easy because Inverurie, they've only lost one of their last 7 games in all competitions, so that that's solid form in anyone's book, I would say.
At the risk of asking iffy questions, when's the last time Turriff played? A couple of weeks now, is it?
It's at least a few. I should actually. I think it would be November it was December the 3rd. It was that game against Inverurie in the quarterfinal of the League Cup. So. That was their last game. You're trying to catch my.
I'm just thinking, could Matt Sharpness come into it?
Well, it could do, but then by the same token, everyone's had last weekend off. So you sort of, I don't know. I mean, some teams which we'll come on to have had 3 weeks without a game, but I think if you've only had one Saturday or two, I don't think it's quite such an issue.
Looking at the table for that one as well, with Fraserburgh and Formartine playing each other, Locos just below them, maybe a chance for Locos to leapfrog one of those sides. Let's rattle through the rest of the Friday games. Then 7:30 p.m. kickoff, the earliest the kickoffs, the rest are 8 p.m. Brechin City against Banks of Dee. We know what Brechin are trying to do in every game, don't we? But Banks of Dee should, in theory, present a decent challenge to them.
They should. It's funny, I look at these festive fixtures. I know we started talking about is it nice playing them back to back, but if Brechin can win both these games, it puts them in a very strong position. If it's 6 out of 6 points from the double header against Banks of Dee, you'd have to say they're firmly in the driving seat heading into 2023.
You would have to. I think Banks of Dee will certainly make it very competitive. I don't see it being, a sort of runaway for Brechin, but I think Banks of Dee's probably out of the 2 games their better chance picking up something and beating Brechen's probably at Spain Park, because their home record's very good, and with the AstroTurf pitch and that, they play it very well, and that seems to be where they're strongest. So I'd probably expect Brechin to win this fixture at Glebe Park, but then next week I could potentially see the reverse outcome.
Second place, Buckie Thistle will travel to Devon Vale for an 8 p.m. kick-off on Friday. I mean, Buckie must be feeling reasonably confident going into these two matches against Devon Vale.
They have to be. I think out of the title contenders, this is probably the kindest fixture list and for Buckie, and I don't mean any disrespect to Devon Vale with that. Buckie are so strong, and unless it's been one of their main rivals, they've been quite comfortable in picking up that 3 points consistently every week. Devon Vale will have to play very well, and Buckie have an off night, I think, for anything other than a Buckie Thistle win here.
I do think it's slightly interesting if you look at the two cup meetings between the sides. In the Highland League Cup, it was 3-1 to Buckie, and Devon Vale, well, it was 1-1 for a while, and there were more in the game, and then they played again in Aberdeenshire Shield, and Craig Stewart sort of made a few changes with upcoming league games in mind, and it was 9-1 that night. So I think Vale at their best can ask questions of Buckie, but really it would be hard. It is hard to look beyond the Jags. And you spoke about confidence. I don't think I've watched a Buckie side with that Graham Stewart's put out where they've been lacking in confidence. Really, it's never usually much of an issue for them.
Forest Mechanics against Lossiemouth, also 8 p.m. on Friday. Forest favourites for this one, but I mean, Lossie have had decent performances at times this season.
They have. I mean, I'm also with you. I think Forest can just nick this one, but I don't think there'll be a lot between these two teams when they go head to head. Lossie tend to do better at home for me, but Forest, I think Forest are going to win, but not by many. It's a 1-0, 2-1 for me.
Lossie won at Mossop Park in the North of Scotland Cup this season, so they
A while ago, though,
they are capable. But on the flip side, you're also going back to the middle of October. I think it was the 8th of October for their last win in the league. So they're badly needing a result in that in the league, certainly. So I suppose, bearing that in mind, you would probably edge towards Forest.
Okay, so after we finished recording this week's Highland League Weekly Friday preview show, news broke that Lossiemouth manager Joe Russell had resigned. Lossiemouth take on Forest Mechanics away from home, 8 p.m. this Friday. Callum, your thoughts on Joe Russell's resignation? It kind of came out the blue a little bit, didn't it?
I think it was a surprise to most people in the Highland League, certainly to me anyway. I mean, Joe's been there did the job for 4.5 years. Did a good job. You know, the progress was there for people to see. When he came in, he sort of had to blood a lot of their under-20s team and start again almost, but they have progressed on from there. They were 15th last season, but the interesting thing and the point he made was that although they were 15th, they were actually closer to 8th, Nairn and 8th, than they were to the team Strathspey, who finished 16th. So, you know, they're sort of established now within that middle pack of teams. So I think it was, to see Joe going was a shock, but he just feels that he'd maybe taken it as far as he could, and with work and one thing and another, the time was right for him to step aside. So I think everyone can understand those reasons, but he's very much of the opinion that the sort of project they've put in place at Lossie will start to bear fruit going forward.
Well, I was going to say they've got an interim coaching team in place led by Joe Russell's assistant, don't they, ahead of Forest this weekend?
Yeah, Ian Campbell and is in interim charge, assisted by coaches Scott Campbell and Joe Lasley, and I mean that was the Joe Russell's backroom team, and they know all the players and know how it works. And I mean, at times Ian was sort of in charge anyway. Joe's sometimes been away with his work with the RAF, so Ian knows the ropes and that, and I'm sure they'll get a good reaction from the players against Forest. But it seems, speaking to Ian, it seems unlikely that he'll be would be looking to take on the job long term, because he's also quite busy with his own business commitments and things.
Okay, well, thank you, Callum, and to the viewers, don't say we don't keep you bang up to date with Highland League goings on. Huntley Keith looks pretty tight, doesn't it? I'm trying to think of a way to shoehorn like Christie and Christmas together, but I can't come up with one.
But you failed.
So we'll leave it there. But it does. I mean, there's I think there's one team between them on the table, which is near.
Two teams that can score goals, two teams prone to conceding goals. So score draw. How's that?
I mean, Huntley have got more goals in their team, don't they? Would you say?
I think
Of late they have, but Keith have had some decent results.
I think it's probably, we speak about maybe the rustiness with having the two of these sides haven't played since the 3rd of December, and I'd imagine that's a frustration to both managers, because their last outings were, really positive. I mean, Keith 4 points from the last 2 games, and Huntley's last outing was a 5-2 win against Wick. So, they haven't had the chance to build on that, and will a couple of weeks off make a difference? I'm not sure, but I think with home advantage and maybe with that extra wee bit in the final third, I would be expecting Huntley probably to get the job done. But for either side, if they could win, whoever wins will be 9th in the table, and it's also it keeps you in the mix, trying to chase sort of Forest and Rothes and that, and trying to push further up in the top half of the league.
On to the Tuesday games then. All of these in the northern part of the league. Nairn County against Clark. Let's start with that one, because Nairn are the team between Huntley and Keith at the moment, and have obviously been in a cracking run, probably aided by all these sort of freezing cold water swims they've been doing when they've had.
Seems to have made a difference.
I mean, it's kind of like a balance for Nairn's play at the moment, I suppose, between like the elation of the way things are going on the pitch and this torture they're having to endure regularly. But it seems to be working, doesn't it?
I think we need to see you and Stephen Mackay having a cold water swim together in the new year.
This sounds like a future Highland League
feature
weekly feature.
We're looking for.
That'll definitely be behind the paywall.
But I think on a serious note, this fixture, Nairn against Clark, always competitive, always entertaining. I think the storyline, people like myself probably looking for Connor Gethins and his pursuit of 200 goals, and
Where's he at?
He's on 197 for Nairn, but there was a rogue headline a couple of weeks ago which a few folk picked up on, which maybe the implication was that he was looking to score 200 goals during the festive period rather than reaching the milestone. But even that might be beyond Connor, I would suggest. But it wouldn't be a surprise if he was to pop up with 2 or 3. Well, 3 would obviously get him to the double century. Clark, I mean, they've been out of action since the 26th of November. So you might, by the time the game comes around, that's a month, you might be inclined to suggest they might be a little bit rusty, but who knows.
Rothes against Strathspey, Thistle. These teams played each other recently.
Start of the month, and it was 7-0 to Rothes.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would say this quite often, but with Strathspey, maybe a case of just trying to better that in these 2 games coming up.
Well, it's the life after Charlie Brown era for Strathspey, isn't it? It's funny because I was very critical of them in the Monday show last week, because feeling like, 7 guys turning up for training in a midweek, it wasn't great. Did they do enough? Now it's a fresh start. Can they wipe the slate clean and get going again? It's going to be easier said than done at Rothes, I think. We've had like a couple of weeks without a game to sort of maybe work on things.
Well, I think Brian Ritchie's looking for the players that are there to show that they're deserving of the shirt, and to we don't know how long Brian's going to be sort of holding the fort, but whoever is appointed as a permanent manager, it's sort of a chance for the players at the moment to prove themselves to whoever comes next and show that they're good enough to start picking up wins for Strathspey. But I would be surprised if they left McKessick Park with 3 points, I have to say.
Final game on Tuesday, Wick Academy, Brora Rangers. I've seen Craig Campbell tweeting relentlessly about counting down the days left on the building site before the festive break. So by this point, he'll be off, up to high dough. But I mean, it's pretty. I mean, Wick Brora is tasty derby, isn't it? To get it twice.
It'll be the highest attended game, I think.
Probably.
Festive fixtures.
Vale Bucket will be, I would think, it'd be a fair crowd at as well, but Huntly Keith also. But no, as you're mentioning, Craig, I mean, that's probably one of the things I'd imagine he enjoys about managing rather than playing now, is he can enjoy his Christmas break a bit more than in his playing days, perhaps. But again, Brora, like Clach, haven't played since 26th of November, so there's that question. I know Wick have had the last couple of Saturdays off as well, but there's probably is that question mark a wee bit about sharpness. But I mean, ordinarily you would probably expect Brora to prevail, but Wick at home as well. It's a derby that they'll be right up for. It wouldn't be a surprise if they were to come away with the points.
I think, given you're expecting Bucky to take maximum points and Brecon have got a tough double header of their own, I think Brora have to really be looking at a maximum return from this double header.
Yeah, I've now just remembered, I think, seeing a tweet of Brora's players dressed up as wrestlers for their Christmas night out. Did anyone else see that, or was that a dream?
I didn't pay enough attention.
I didn't study it in any detail.
I'll need to look back, but whoever it was dressed as Paul Bearer. I liked it. It was very good. You'll have to watch it. Okay. Right, well, as I said, that's the last Highland League Weekly Friday preview show of 2022. Just a reminder, the games we're filming from this Friday-Tuesday card is going to be for Martin Fraserburgh, which is on Friday night, 8 p.m, as well as Inverurie Turriff, which is also at Friday night at 8 p.m. As a result of that, we'll have the highlights hopefully out by tomorrow morning, Saturday, so you won't have to wait until after you've had your Christmas to see those. An early Christmas present.
The Highland League.
I was
going to say the Highland League Weekly Christmas editing elves will be working overtime on the 23rd to get it ready. You can have that.
Throw it back to you. Anyway, have a good Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Cheers.